comments of the Delhi LG VK Saxena, who has recommended now a probe by the National Investigation Agency against jailed Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal for allegedly receiving political funding from the banned terrorist organization Sikhs for Justice. In a letter to the Union Home Secretary, LG Saxena has stated that he received a complaint that Kejriwal-led Aam Aadmi Party had received around $16 million from extremist Khalistani groups, including SFJ, which is led by Gurparwant Singh Pannu. SFJ is a banned terror organization founded by Khalistani terrorist Gurparwant Singh Pannu. The NIA has registered more than 12 cases against the SFJ in India. Amidst all of this, a war of words has now erupted between the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party over these allegations. The Bharatiya Janata Party has slammed Arvind Kejriwal and the Aam Aadmi Party, calling this shameful. Meanwhile, the Aam Aadmi Party has rebutted, saying that this is nothing but a conspiracy of the ruling party. What really then is the substance here? We take this conversation forward. I have with me Mr. Sudhanshu Mittal of the BJP, Surinder Singh Lali, international affairs expert, Nikhil Jain, political analyst, with us on the broadcast. Let me begin this conversation with Mr. Mittal. Mr. Mittal, it would be fair to ask on what basis have these very serious charges been made against the Aam Aadmi Party by the Delhi LG?
If you would recollect, Mr. Pannu himself had stated publicly that $16 million were paid to the Aam Aadmi Party, and their association has been well known. If you recollect, when the elections took place in Punjab last time, the way he had advocated the cause of the terrorists and the militants, and the way he hobnobbed with all of them, it was for the entire world to see. And it was one reason why all the people in Punjab were so apprehensive that the moment they would vote for him, it would be an extension of Khalistani's abode in India. Now, given this background, enough evidence has now surfaced of the involvement of the clandestine meetings which have taken place, of the nefarious involvement of the Aam Aadmi Party leadership, and the purpose for which the bribe was paid is well known to everybody. So what has been in public domain also and what has been known to people has now been formally assigned to the National Investigating Agency to investigate and bring the culprits to book. Any self-respecting nation cannot have people within the system hobnobbing and being in cahoots with terrorist organizations, extremist organizations, anti-national organizations, damaging the interest of this country.
Okay,
Mr. Mittal.
Okay, Mr. Mittal, at the same time, what sort of a timeline are we looking at when you talk about this alleged transfer of funding? When exactly did this take place? And when exactly, are we simply relying on a statement made by a man who's known to cause divide in India, who's known to have India's interests on his primary target?
While you say that, I do not recollect any statement of this obnoxious gentleman alleging that he's paid any money to any other political party except for the Aam Aadmi Party.
Right, okay, fair enough.
I would have assumed that this is a statement which is a notorious statement and which is mischievous. No, it is not. And it is there. And when it comes to an investigation with the National Investigating Agency, I must tell you that I have personal knowledge in terms of the work they have done in striking at the root of the Hawala traders, striking at the root of the international fund transfer for terrorist functions or for drugs and all that. So these are all very, very serious matters. To politicize these matters would be, I think, doing a disservice to the country. The country cannot afford. We have seen such a bloody struggle in Punjab during the days of terrorism. You cannot have those days back. There are elements who are inimical to the interest of India, who have been trying to foment trouble, whether in Canada or in the US and elsewhere. but they have been dealt with very firm hands. Now, to have a political organization within the Indian system which patronizes such elements and continues to be serving against the interest of the country should not be and cannot be tolerated. So I would request everybody not to look at it from the prism of any politics, but from the prism of national interest, and let National Investigating Agency do its job fairly, diligently, and bring all these culprits to books. Because what has been known to everybody should now be known with solid evidence which is available, which through scientific investigation and tracking down the money and tracking down the roots and tracking down the individuals who are involved in it would be before the public.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Surinder Singh Lali into the conversation as well. Mr. Lali, if these allegations against the Aam Aadmi Party were to be found to be true, or whether or not the investigation even culminates, it'll take many, many years before any conclusion is reached. What do you think then becomes the fate of the Aam Aadmi Party?
We recognize the party. We need to make the party also a party in the way Mr. Arvind Kejriwal has been trying to fool the nation, because the funds came to him and they were spent by Aam Aadmi Party. But Devika, first of all, allow me to acknowledge to be among such a distinguished panel. And I'm going to make 3 points. The first is, there's a beautiful phrase in English which says that fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This is how people who fell for this, disguised individual who used to wear an oversized shirt and a sandal and a muffler. It was all part of an acting campaign that he did. But I'm going to make 3 points to qualify why do I say that. Sikhs for Justice is a banned, outfit. It openly speaks about the dismemberment of India. It talks about a separate country for Sikhs. And at this point, with the strongest vocabulary available to me, I deny, I protest, because we are 220 million living in India. We're absolutely fine. We can deal with the problems we might have within the parentheses of the law. We don't need any of these Johnnies from Canada to issue a brief for us. And most Sikhs that I know of don't even subscribe to this. Sikhs for Justice incites violence. I mean, they have been known for, inciting violence against our diplomats, our embassies, and Indian assets across the world, including Air India. So that's one. Yes, he issued a video on the 27th of March in which he asked for $16 million, which roughly is 130 crores. And AK is on record meeting Guru Patwant Singh Pannu at the Richmond Hill Sikh Temple. And I used to go there as a student too. So he's on record meeting him there. He promised in return for this money that he would further their cause of a separate Sikh state in India, one of which was, asking for the release of Mr. D. Buller. Now, this D. Buller has been behind bars for 25 years for a bomb blast. Further, Arvind Kejriwal writes to the President of India, to the Honorable President Pranab Mukherjee, for asking for an early release, while there is no such recommendation from the police or from the agencies, because they don't feel that this gentleman has to be led back on the society, but Arvind Kejriwal writes on his letterhead. There are former colleagues of him, Dr. Raizada and Kumar Vishwas. They have nothing to do with BJP, that he keeps screaming from rooftops. They are on record saying that he has been in bed with the Khalistani separatist movement. He stayed with them in New York, he stayed with them in Canada, and he also stayed with them in Punjab. And that's probably why it cost him the election before this. Now, my take is that, Aam Aadmi Party has been too long for playing the victim card.
Okay.
I mean, they came on a certain paucity and a certain gap which was in the society where there was a great trust deficit against the political class.
Right.
But
okay.
instead of governance, now, he's been playing this victim card for too long, and everything he has somebody else to blame but for himself. So I think he also needs to invest in a mirror. And my last point is, I make a very humble request through your channel to everybody watching. Please let us all be very judicious in using the word Sikh and Khalistan. I don't normally like to use them for a reference point I have to use Because end of the day, Sikhism is not a proprietary of these Johnnies who, for their vested, narrow political interests, are using the
Okay.
name of. Allow me to complete just 1 minute. So I think we should call them separatists who are asking for a separate state. That's my brief point. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right. Nikhil Jain, bringing you into the conversation. Nikhil, you've heard what the rest of the panelists have had to say. I just want to understand from you, has then a perception or a narrative against the Aam Aadmi Party been created?
Devika, I don't think that is the case, because all the instances that are being talked about right now with Arvind Kejriwal meeting people who are not sort of inimical to India's interests and have separatist demands, those incidents go back to 2014, 2015. So far as these allegations of funding are concerned, there is no proof towards those allegations. Yes, Arvind Kejriwal wrote a letter for the release of somebody who was a convict in a terror case in India on the demands of somebody who was sitting on a dharna regarding the 1984 Sikh riots. Yes, Arvind Kejriwal met this Pannu character in a Gurdwara, but all of this happened 7-8 years ago. If there is any proof for the funding, if there is anything to that effect, action would have been taken so far. So let me remind your viewers that in 2021 or 22, it was Charanjit Singh Channi, the then Congress Chief Minister of Punjab, who had written a letter seeking investigation into this. Subsequently, a PIL was also filed at the Supreme Court seeking an investigation into this. And at that point of time, the Home Ministry in the Supreme Court had very clearly said that we are cognizant into the matter and we are investigating into it. If nothing has come out of that investigation in the past 2 or 3 years, that simply means that these allegations of funding are baseless. Of course, Arvind Kejriwal was in the wrong company. I'm not going to defend that. He perhaps should not have met those people. But to claim that he took money from a terrorist organization when there is no proof of that money trail, that is something preposterous. And let's not just ignore the timing on how this is happening. The Delhi Lieutenant Governor is writing a letter to the National Investigative Agency to investigate an elected Chief Minister who is in jail on a case right the day before Supreme Court hearing on his bail is supposed to come. And a lot of people were believing that today in the Supreme Court's hearing, Arvind Kejriwal may get interim bail to campaign for the elections. And at the same time, this man wants an NIA investigation against him so that the charade that was played by the BJP in arresting Jignesh Mevani and a bunch of other opposition politicians ki ED ne arrest kara, ED se bail mera CBI ne pakad liya, CBI se छोड़ा, Delhi police ने पकड़ लिया. This is what they're trying to do. If there is any substance to the allegations, then Arvind Kejriwal should have been behind bars. He should have been behind bars on terror charges. But what has the NIA been doing? It simply means either the NIA is thoroughly incompetent and they want a terrorist to be an elected chief minister in this country, or there is no allegation, this is just an allegation, absolutely baseless, and now it's being brought around during the election time, 20 days before Delhi goes to polling, to tarnish the image of the India Alliance and of the Aam Aadmi Party and Kejriwal. This is just preposterous misuse of constitutional positions for brazen political gains. I don't think the LG should be.
This is precisely why, Sudhanshu Mittal, I'd also checked in with you on the timeline of some of these meetings and the timeline of the funding as well, because as Nikhil Jain pointed out, if this is something that has happened a few years ago, he's correct in asking what really were the investigative agencies doing at that point in time. Sudhanshu Mittal.
First thing, I must compliment Mr. Lali Singh for his very educative articulation on the involvement and how the Sikhs of this country do not identify with the nefarious designs of the Sikh for Justice and such organizations, and how they look down upon the maneuvers of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal in fermenting this trouble. Mr. Jain wants us to believe that this letter which he wrote for the release of a terrorist is innocent. It's very, very innocent, based on the requirement of a man who's trying to say that in the 84 riots, culprits should be brought on books. So this man makes a request that a man who has been convicted for Delhi bombing should be released. And so Mr. Kejriwal, out of his generosity and out of his compassion for such elements, wrote this letter. Now, we are not fools. We are all intelligent people. The kind of maneuvers Mr. Kejriwal has demonstrated as somebody whose conduct has been beneath contempt, inconsistency. He has talked what he's forked. He talks something, he means something, he acts something different. The high moral grounds and the pedestal at which he had placed himself vis-a-vis the polity of this country, and how it has crumbled down to the mother of political conduct, is there for everybody to see. Now, there is finger being raised on the NIA by Mr. Jain as to what NIA has been doing. I have personal knowledge as to how, brick by brick, NIA has demolished the money trail and the money systems, first of the JNK terrorists. If we see peace in J&K, it is because the backbone of money transfer in J&K was crushed by the NIA through assiduous investigation. And similarly, this is what is happening now. And that is what has created these ripples. This Mr. Jain obviously would be very, very uncomfortable. But so be it. The issue don't, we always try to politicize everything by talking about timings. Criminality has no timings. And catching the criminals who have been indulging in such dangerous games as to being a part of encouraging terrorism and hobnobbing with terrorists like Punnu, I think it is most unpardonable. Mr. Jain had to say that it was bad company. Mr. Jain, hobnobbing with terrorists is not bad company, and that too for a man who was the chief minister of Delhi. I think we should unequivocally condemn this conduct of Aam Aadmi Party and let the investigation go on, and let's not politicize it by saying timings and coloring it.
Okay, Mr. Mittal, I'll come back to you. Nikhil, I'll give you the opportunity. Mr. Lali also wanted to respond. Mr. Lali, go ahead. Then Nikhil.
I love it with the kind of naivety Mr. Jain is willing to extend to an extended chief minister of the fifth largest growing economy who governs the capital. I mean, was he in wrong company? Is he a kindergarten child? This gentleman said he will not take security. He's taken security. He says he'll live out of a two-bedroom house. He lives in a two-bedroom house. And to top it all off, the gentleman is so smart. Let's give the devil the due by virtue of being an IRS and an IITN. He keeps no portfolio. I mean, everything else is going on without the chief minister. The buck ends at the chief minister's desk, but he's been smart enough not to leave anything on his desk. Why is he thrown all of his former colleagues, confidants and left-right mans and man-friends under the bus while he feels that he was in the wrong company? And just my last statement, Mr. Nikhil Jain, to the best of my knowledge, I would want you to contradict me on this one. Aam Aadmi Party has not had an official press conference rejecting Pannu directly because they know more muck will come from Canada. They just made a brief statement saying, oh, the charges are baseless. I mean, at the drop of a hat, Atishi, Maldana and Saurabh have a press conference, even if Arvind has a bad stomach and Modi and Shah are responsible for it. They are not on record saying that, no, we did not take from Pannu, we never met him.
Yes, that's an important point there. Unfortunately, I don't have anybody of the Aam Aadmi Party to respond to that. But Nikhil, I'd just like to pose that question to you. You can keep your point, but I'd just like to understand from you, was it then not necessary for the Aam Aadmi Party to come out and unequivocally condemn Sikhs for Justice?
So, Devika, there are two things to this. Two things that are completely undisputed. One, that Arvind Kejriwal did meet one of the key people of the Sikhs for Justice organization, Gurpawan Singh Pannu, who's, by the way, that is a separatist organization which the government of India has labeled as a terrorist organization in 2019.
Nikhil, let's not try to distinguish between the two. Let's not do that, because that's a very slippery slope that you are also taking at this point.
Devika, let me make my point.
You're saying that they've been labeled separatist but not terrorist. Let's not go there.
Can I make my point?
Yes,
Arvind
go ahead.
Kejriwal met a person.
My friend,
Sir, I did not interject you. Sir, I did not interject you when you were speaking. At least let me defend. I'm 1% defending against the stance being taken by two people. What I'm trying to say is that in 2014, Arvind Kejriwal had met a separatist person who belongs to an organization which 5 years later became a terrorist organization, number one. Number two, there is proof of Arvind Kejriwal seeking clemency in the form of a letter from the President of India on the request of a certain protester. Now, it is being said, why are you supporting terrorists in doing that? Normally, at a surface level, I would agree with that point. But the fact is that politicians and governments across the board, across party lines, do hobnob with separatists, terror accused, and insurgents, or accused of the same, in the interest of larger peace. Just a couple of months ago, Amit Shah signed a peace deal with a bunch of Naga separatists, armed separatists. Why did he do that? Because he's being paid off by the Naga terrorists? No, because he wanted the larger interest of peace to prevail in the Northeast. The Congress governments have done that. Arvind Kejriwal tried doing that. I personally, I don't see the need for doing it, but that's his political decision to make. The important question here is,
No,
if
but
all
are you
these
saying
incidents
that
were
when
7, 8, 9 years
Kejriwal-
ago,
Okay, but 9
why
years
has
ago,
nothing happened
but
on
Nikhil,
that?
Nikhil, see, this is
Why
where
has
Nikhil,
nothing
this is where
happened
it
on
gets
that,
Nikhil,
Deepika?
this is where it gets tricky, right? 7, 8, 9
Can I
years
make a
ago,
comment?
why didn't Arvind Kejriwal feel the need to speak to a Sikh separatist? Even if
Can I-
it was in the
In
interest
politics,
of...
you meet all sorts of people. In politics, you meet all sorts of people. Just a month ago, Narendra Modi was campaigning for a mass rapist.
Okay,
Are we to assume that Narendra Modi endorses mass rape? Probably he did not know about
Okay.
about that. See,
Okay.
we cannot be holding to account politicians for everything. Let me also remind you.
I think that's precisely what we should be doing. We should be holding them. We should be holding them accountable for everything, Nikhil. I'm running out of time, but Nikhil, you've made...
Sunny Deol, the BJP MP, was photographed with the organization
Okay,
that is now
Nikhil, you've made your point. Nikhil, Nikhil, I've understood your point. I have last 1 minute left. Sonalchi Mittal and then Mr. Lali.
Yeah, Mr. Jain does not realize that Mr. Arvind Kejriwal had no locus standi. Mr. Amit Shah is charged with the responsibility of ensuring peace in this country. And as Home Minister, he has a locus standi. The Chief Minister of Delhi has no locus standi to talk to Pannu and write letters about somebody who's a convict in a case of bomb blast, a ranked terrorist who's in prison for 20 years. He's supporting him. And that too, when you look at the statement saying $16 million have been paid for this support. Do you need anything else? Mr. Jain, when you make
Who is a fool to pay $16 million for a letter,
I
sir?
did not interject. Mr. Jain, when you make a comment, please do not challenge our intelligence. Do not compare Mr. Amit Shah's endeavor to bring peace to this country to the nefarious designs of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal bringing terrorism to Punjab by encouraging the separatists and taking money from them. Have some dignity in taking pride of this nation.
One very small point. Very small point. Single line point. Deepika, single line point. Single line point.
Very quickly, Nikhil, I need to give Mr. Lali 30 seconds as well.
So basically, the claim is that Arvind Kejriwal was paid $16 million to write a letter to the president seeking clemency for a person who has been convicted by the Supreme Court. Which organization is that stupid?
Okay, Nikhil, Sudhanshu Mittal, you made your
$16
point.
million,
I leave the last word with you.
$16,000.
Okay, Surinder Lali, I leave the last word with you.
You know, I understand Mr. Jain is in a tight corner, but it's okay. I mean, he has to defend the indefensible. But for me, one thing is very clear, irrespective of my political leanings, my shirt is dear to me and more dear to me is my skin. So for me, India is supreme, and I'm not willing to cut any slack to any government elected representative or bureaucrat to have hobnobbed with a separatist and say, oh my God, I didn't know that. I'm sorry, that doesn't cut any slack with me. But I understand, Nikhil, my sympathies are with you.
Okay, all right. Like I said, this is going to be a very interesting conversation in the days to come. But that's all the time that we have. I thank all of our panelists for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.